Hi everyone, this is Al Gaeta up in Lexington, Kentucky, and just kind of showing you what we've done to my old 39 Dodge pick-em-up truck after coming back from EVCON. The process of changing or restoring this truck and converting it to electric was a 3-year process, and slowly but surely it became this vehicle here. At the present, it's a daily driver. I've got 1,200 miles on it. The range appears to be about 100, but I'm still looking for some improvement in that as I get used to managing the battery pack. And speaking of the battery pack, I know I should have put it under the bed of the truck, but I just ran out of time, so it's in the bed of the truck.
And for those of you that weren't at EVCON, this is a look at the battery pack. There we go. That's 80 Cal 180s, the new ones. It's about if I remember right, 46 kilowatt pack, and I've tested it so far almost to 100 miles, but I'm still tuning the pack and how much voltage I can take out of it and all this kind of good stuff. So I expect another 15-20 miles maybe, and that will put me over the 100-mile mark, and I'll be a happy camper.
One of the first things we had to do was to bottom balance the battery pack after we got back home from EVCON. And so here I am balancing the pack 3 batteries at a time. And I made the mistake of starting the bottom balance with the batteries fully charged. And so it was like 4 hours to drain an individual cell down to down 2.7 volts. So the moral of the story here is run your battery pack down before you start to do the bottom balance. And it's getting cold up here in Kentucky, so I decided I would buy one of the heaters that's for sale in the store. And there are actually, I think, 3 or 4 different voltage ranges you can get this in. The ones I used was 220 volts to 260 volts. And I want to tell you, it works out like a charm. I had to make some changes to it though. See the aluminum foil across the top? Well, the top and bottom, there was a 1/4 inch gap between the fan housing and the heater core. And a good percentage of the air that the fan was blowing was just coming out that gap stone cold. So you weren't moving the air past the heater. So I had some metal duct tape, so I wrapped it all around it and made it good and tight. And then, using the 4 screws, I mounted it on the firewall of the old truck. And the gray thing above the heater is the a glove compartment. And you can see in the lower right-hand corner of the heater, you can see the little threaded rod going into the firewall, and I had it bolted in with, I think it was like 1032, might have been 832. I'm just not sure, but it worked out really good. And man, does that heater put out heat! We had to keep turning it off even on cold days when we were driving. So it does a really good job. Probably got to get a thermostat or something like that for it.
Okay, this next thing doesn't have anything to do with electric cars, but it has a great cool factor if you're driving an antique vehicle. And this is it right here. Come on. And here it is, just like those great big brand new SUVs with the blinkers buried in the mirror. Well, I got one too. Another thing we got installed is the keyless remote entry system. You'll notice that there are no door handles on the doors. Okay, all electronics and wiring and doodads up on the wall are the keyless entry system electronics. This here is the receiver, And these are the 40 amp relays that pop the solenoids that are buried in the doors. And the wiring gets pretty messy. Anyway, for those of you who haven't seen it, Manzanita charger and the Evanetics Solar One, I never can say that word, and then the original radiator.
And this is a better picture of the back side of the radiator. You'll notice the two brass fittings on the side of the Evanetics controller. The brass fitting on top runs straight down to the far corner on the bottom of the radiator. So that's where we draw the cool water in. The brass fitting near the bottom of the picture is the discharge from the controller, and that goes down that green hose and around the corner. And this is the front side of the radiator before I installed it, obviously. But you can see, well, actually, down the bottom in the middle, there'll be that cute little pump, the kind that have the impeller magnetically coupled to the motor, so there's no shaft seal or anything. The EV-TV store sells them, and so they should run like forever. But in any event, that pumps the water up the hose, and I had to knock a hole in the radiator and solder in a plate, etc., etc. And so we dumped the warm water in the top of the radiator. And normally the motion of the car, of course it's been cool up here, seems to take care of it very well. But when the summer days come, this is a really serious fan. It's designed for automotive radiator. The fan is not hooked to anything at the moment. But by early spring, I think I'll have to have it hooked up.
And again, for you folks that weren't at EvCon, the thing on the left, the blue switch, that's the big master 600 amp cutoff. The two little contactors right next to it. Big red wire going to the right to the plus bus, and then another wire going on up to the plus of the controller. Somewhere around here, if I can find it. Under here is the shunt for measuring what I'm drawing from the traction pack. And here is the two little diodes that you're supposed to have to protect your DC to DC converter. Well, we didn't have it. My son and I were doing this, and it was a slam dunk to get it ready to go. We forgot to put the diodes. I had them. We forgot to hook them up. Took the truck out for a ride, came back, DC to DC converter is dead. Opened it up. Well, actually, we were at the shop at Jack's shop in EV-TV land there. Went over. It was really funny. Went online, ordered a new DC to DC converter. Went over to stockroom, grabbed one, put in the diodes, and we're now living happily ever after. Took the old one apart when I got home, and like Jack has mentioned on the show, there's a 10 amp fuse right next to the input wire. It was blown. Put a new fuse in, and now I have two 800 watt DC to DC converters. So anyway, don't forget them diodes. It'll cost you. Two things about this truck. Everything is very simplistic, and there is nothing delicate about anything on here. This is just some words here. For all you folks that are in the middle of your conversion and you got wires going everywhere and you're getting discouraged, keep going. Once you get it finished, it's a real hoot, especially this thing. People pull up alongside me at stoplights and want to know what year it is and stuff like that. If I go to Lowe's, Home Depot, Kroger's, anything, and I come out, put the groceries in the car and fool around with it a little bit, like checking voltage or something, invariably people, mostly guys, walk up and say, hey, what year is it? My dad had a blah, blah, blah. And the conversation goes pretty regular until they say, well, what kind of engine you got in it? And I say, no, this is an electric vehicle. And then there's that 5 seconds of cranial detonation while they process that. Then they come back and say, oh, you have an electric engine. No, I got an electric motor. And so then I show them the battery pack and all, and it's just a real hoot to do. It's a lot of fun. Some of the technical stuff about this vehicle, it's warp, yeah, I got a net gain warp 11 motor, Evanetics Solitron 1, I always say that word wrong, controller, and I need the cheat sheet here. A 3-speed transmission with clutch, with reverse, and I drive it using the clutch, second and third gear. First gear, like everyone says, is just doesn't count. It will leave the stop line in second gear, like straight uphill or whatever, no problem. And if the ground is level, even if it's uphill, you just leave it in third and push the electric pedal down, and it just kind of eases off the line so smooth. It really is pretty cool. I've got the RPM on the motor limited to 3,200 RPM. That gives me about 60 miles an hour in third gear. And that's all I dare drive this thing until I get more used to it and maybe get some better equipment, especially in the front end. The front end was terrible. When we had it at EVCON, my son and I came down a week early, commandeered one of Jack's lifts, and proceeded to slam dunk lots and lots of parts into this thing so it would run. During EVCON, we used it to haul a drag race stuff back and forth around the airport. And the steering was terrible. The steering box was loose. The brakes were very bad. The tires were square. They'd been on this car for 40 years, believe it or not. And they were square. And it just went lumpity-lump down the road. The front end I aligned by eye. And so that's the state of affairs at EVCON. We got it home, got new Michelin tires, got a real four-wheel alignment, adjusted the sector box, and got that steering gear much better, but it's still a little loose. And put on all new brake shoes, and they're wearing in, and the brakes are gradually getting better and better. So anyway, I got it limited at 60 mile an hour, and I want to tell you, it gets up there real fast, even in third gear. Between 40 and 60, it's very, very impressive. And it's still accelerating hard when the speed control kicks in and holds the RPM down. Other important things are I've got the maximum motor current limited to 800 amps. I've got the maximum motor power limited to 100 kilowatts. And I got a slew rate of 1,000 amps a second. I was running a slew rate like at 500 amps per second, and it was a real genteel departure, even if you put the gas pedal or the electric pedal all the way down. It didn't move out briskly. So I doubled that number, and now it comes off the line very, very nicely. It isn't a terror, but boy, it just keeps going and going and going. And I think that's it. I won't bore you with any more. And for all you guys that are still working on them, remember, the EV grin goes on for a long time.